This for my baby. Gxlden.Chvld.
What's up, guys? It's your girl, the Golden Child, and we're back with another video. As you see, we're here to talk about When They See Us. This movie, it was like, well, not movie, a series. It was about 5 hours and 4 different parts. But yeah, the series really moved me to tears. The only other thing that has moved me to tears like this was The Hate U Give, which was also amazing. But I'd say this even like trumps The Hate U Give. Like, it was that powerful and that moving. Any of you guys who've seen The Hate U Give? The series was really long, so obviously I'm not gonna like give like a whole synopsis, just like an overview of the like cause and effect going on. Is on April 20th of 1989, a female jogger was discovered beaten brutally and clinging to life and also raped. And in a matter of days, these 5 young black men between the ages of 14 and 16 were being convicted for her rape and attempted murder. And that night, like, the boys were just out. It was a group of like maybe like 30 young black men, and they were just like kind of being wild. They were wild, and as the documentary had said, like, some people had gotten like beat up, and like there was a couple people that had gotten beat up, and then like not too far from that, the woman had gotten raped. So like, of course, they wanted to like try to link those people getting beat up to the woman being raped. And the Central Park Five themselves didn't partake in any like beating up and raping, obviously, but just these 5 random boys who were out that night are being like pieced together as like becoming this wolf pack and plotting to take advantage of this woman. And these boys, for the most part, didn't even know each other. Just 2 of them were friends. Yusuf and Corey were friends, but that's about it. Oh yeah, also to name all of them, there is Antron McCray, Raymond Santana, Kevin Richardson, Corey Wise, and Yusuf Salam. Now, these 5 boys, like, they were pretty much strangers except for Yusuf and Corey. But the rest were just essentially like pointing the finger at one another to stop being questioned, because they were questioned for hours on end. Minors, they weren't allowed bathroom breaks or food. So like, essentially they're being like smacked around and like just taken advantage of to make them confess when they don't even like really know what they're confessing to, and they don't know the other people they're accusing. Their confessions were indeed coerced. Like, they were made to confess. If they weren't put under all these like dire circumstances, they wouldn't have ever confessed, because they didn't really even know what was going on, because of course they didn't do it, obviously. But you know, that's American justice. Yeah, that was like the basis of it. And there was no DNA evidence or any eyewitnesses, but Linda Fairstein and the prosecutor lady, I don't remember her name, but the afro-haired lady, you guys will see her if you watch it. They were able to piece together a way to convict these young black men and get them in jail for between, I believe it was 6 and 13 years. So they completed full sentences before they were exonerated. There were like several parts of the movie that like especially got me and like especially hurt my heart. Like, the series was so long, I'm gonna try to remember them, because I'm not gonna like obviously go into like detail about every single thing, but there were like several parts. One part in particular, this was like a small part of the series in its entirety. Corey Wise had a transgender sister named Marcy Wise, and it just really hurt my heart to see the dynamic going on between Corey's mom and his sister. Like, she'd gotten kicked out. Just from my personal knowledge about injustice towards transgender people, I know that like it was definitely like a murder because of her being transgender. That just really bothered me to my core, because earlier in the movie, you had seen another side of Corey's mom, this like caring mother who'd do anything to like save her son and like get him out of this like situation he's been put into by authorities. And then on the flip side, you see her kicking her transgender daughter out of the house. And it's just really unfortunate because the Black community is, I believe, the hardest community on the LGBTQA community. And it just like, it hurt extremely because Corey's mom was able to like totally fight for her son, this injustice being done to him. However, she was unable to properly care for her transgender daughter, who was still her child. And it's just a lot. Like, that's another discussion for another day, but it just really like hurt to see that, because it was like easy to tell in the series that Corey was like really close with her and that he had looked up to her a lot. And that was just really great to see, because it's rare in movies. Like, I don't think I've ever seen like a movie or like series or anything like that where a young boy is like so enamored of his transgender sister. Like, it can normally be like an embarrassing thing for them, which is good to see that Corey was very accepting of it. And of course, sad to see that she had like passed so young. Another part that really bothered me was just seeing the aftermath of all of them leaving prison. Like, they didn't all leave at the same time. Corey stayed the longest. He stayed 13 years because at the time he was 16. He was the oldest, whereas the other 4 of the boys were either 14 or 15. So Corey was charged as an adult, so he was in there a lot longer. And yeah, the shortest sentence the boys had gotten was 6 years. So after like some of them had like left prison and everything, they have to register as sex offenders, of course. And it's just so hard for them to like pretty much do everything. Like, it really, really, really bothered me when Raymond Santana had gone home to his father's house, and then he had this new wife who was like mistreating him, like just saying all kinds of like nasty things to him, like, oh, you're a rapist, don't disrespect me in my house. Like, I don't remember exact quotes, but just saying stuff like that. Like, obviously he's innocent, so it's like I just like felt the pain. I felt this thing because they all had like nasty things said to them. Like, I remember Antron was trying to like date this girl, and she wanted to like go out to eat, and like they had this little argument, and then she just ends up being like, oh, this is how you treat women, that's probably how you treated that lady in the park. And it just like, it's just awful because no one was believing these guys. Like, they have to spend all this time in jail, then they have to like get out and they're like, oh, I'm free, but they're not ever free. It just hurts to realize that along with them, like, of course you're not behind bars anymore, but you're like, but you are like forever, but you are like forever a criminal. Your life never goes back to normal. You have to stay a sex offender. You can like never do certain things. Like, again with Raymond, it was so hard for him to like find a job because he couldn't be anywhere around kids. He couldn't like be around any other criminals. Like, it was just like back to back to back issues. Like, you're out of the, like, you're out of the prison, like physically, but like mentally and metaphorically, you're still in prison because you can't really ever enjoy life. And that bothered me too. But I think the thing that had bothered me the most, like, not to take away from the experience of the boys as a whole, but I believe Corey did have it way worse. He had the longest sentence because he was the oldest, and yeah, he had his own like, separate episode in the last one. So I'm pretty sure like it's common knowledge to know that Corey had it worse. Just seeing the way he was treated in like every prison he had gone to. Like, big ups to that one guard who had like looked out for him and like brought a little sunshine to his life and everything. But just the pain, like seeing him witness, was awful. Like, seeing him being stabbed in one of the new prisons that he had gone to, that was like probably one of the peaks of my crying, because it's like there was no end to his pain and his suffering for like a really long time. He went from prison to prison. Then one time he was trying to transfer prisons to be closer to his mom, and then of course you don't get to choose where you get transferred, and he ended up even farther from his mom, so it was even harder for her to visit. And it was just really, really heartbreaking. But of course there is a happy ending to this. A happy ending. They were exonerated, And yeah, of course, they don't have to be registered as sex offenders anymore. And they got a $41 million settlement, if I'm correct. But the only thing is it had to be split between the five, which I don't think is fair, because that was like around 8 million each. And for all those years they spent in prison, like how they're still harassed, I think their lives are worth a lot more than that. However, at the same time, you can't really put a price tag on it. Like, they were violated in about like every way, shape, and form, and just like mentally and physically scarred. Like, again, Corey Wise, for example, beatings and like stabbings in jail. Just really a lot. It's a whole like 5-hour series. I'm not gonna like tell y'all every single detail or anything, but I know there are also people who are afraid of watching because they know they're gonna be brought to tears. I cried for like a long time. Like, to be quite honest, not so much in like the first 2 episodes as like the last 2, because this is kind of sad to say, but in a sense, I feel as though maybe I, as well as other people, have been desensitized to the courtroom injustice, as well as the beating of black men, because we see it all the time, all over social media, just everywhere. It more bothered me to see the aftermath of their lives. Like, they had to be behind bars and miss so much time. And after they've gotten out and can really experience life, they're not even really free to experience life. And it's just really, really crazy. I did cry a lot, but it really is imperative that you do see it, because I was watching this interview that Asante Black had with someone on the radio. Asante Black is the young man who had played Kevin Richardson. He had an interview with someone on the radio, and he was quoting Zora Lee Hurston. He had said that it is imperative that we watch the series, because if you don't speak out about your pain, they will kill you 1,000 times and say that you enjoyed it. I didn't get the exact words, but I'll probably put the quote right here. But like, what he's saying is pretty much true. We have to speak out about this. Like, it's common knowledge that the injustice, like the abuse, the murder of all these like young black, not, it's not even all young, all these black people in general, is totally wrong. And if we don't speak out about it, then it just won't be taken seriously. And besides speaking out about it, you have to give a voice to these young men, because besides just speaking out about our own injustices, it's even more imperative that we give a voice to these young men, because their voices weren't heard for so long. Of course, they had support from their own communities and their own families that knew they were innocent, but it's like just being told they were guilty for like decades. Like, people still think they're guilty. Like, Linda Fairstein, even after this whole documentary, is still so adamant to say that she was right in all of her rulings, and that like the actual person who had confessed was just the 6th person. That was also something I'd forgotten to say. They were exonerated because the actual person that had raped the woman and beaten her severely came forward, and he was like a serial like murderer pretty much, and even he had more sympathy, as to come forward and admit to his crimes, so someone else wasn't like serving time for it, whereas the authorities couldn't like properly investigate the whole thing. Like, I'm mad I didn't like mention that sooner, but yeah, just like pretty much said in the documentary, if police had done their jobs and like properly investigated, I forgot exactly how it was put, but Mateus, Mateus Riaz, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but he was committing a lot of like rapes around that time, and as well as another murder. I don't know like his list of like all that he had done, but he freely admitted to having like hurt that jogger woman. And if he was like questioned about it, like, it would have been put to an end a lot sooner, and these boys wouldn't have to have endured as much as they did endure. And it's just, the whole thing was really a mess. This whole thing was really a mess, but again, it's really important to see this, because it makes you think. Like, it's different like scrolling past all these these Instagram posts like justice for this person, justice for that person, Black Lives Matter. Like, it's unfortunate to say that although we all still stand for these things and we all want justice, it's different like watching it, seeing it. I'm also not someone to watch something so long. Like, this was even longer than The Color Purple. The Color Purple was mad long, but that was like a whole movie. Then again, but the series was 5 hours, but I assure you, you won't be bored. And if you're someone who's as passionate about these types of issues as I am, then this will be nothing for you to watch. Like, my eyes were literally glued to the screen the whole time, and I have no regrets about it. I say this movie is like 6 stars. I'd give it 6 stars if I could. Like, big ups to Ava DuVernay. She's the director of this. Like, big ups to all the actors. Their acting was amazing, especially Corey Wise. I don't remember his whole name. Jarrell. I know that's his first name. The actor who had played him did really amazing. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. Like, the series really has to speak for itself for you guys, and those of who haven't watched it, you should. I didn't get to watch it as quick as I wanted because I don't have Netflix, so I went to my friend's house and watched it. But if you gotta go to your grandma's house to watch it, your cousin's house, your friend's house, like, just do it. It's really worth watching. And I would watch it again. I don't want to do all that crying, but I watched it again just to like pick up on anything that I missed, because of course it was so long that you maybe could have like missed some things while watching the first time, and then something as good as that, like, you could watch it like a dozen times and still feel the same way about it. But I hope you guys who watched it did enjoy it, and those who haven't, plan on watching it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Peace out.